Then chill to the phone. One artist ready. He's been gone 20 minutes.
Not so long, but he ought to have got us a cab by this time.
He won't get no cab, miss. Not till 11:30. Once they start dropping off their theatre fares.
But we must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30. It's too bad.
Well, it ain't my fault, miss.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have gone on at the theatre.
What could he have done, poor boy?
Well, other people got cabs. Why couldn't he? Well, haven't you got us a cab?
There's not one to be had.
Freddie, you can't have tried. There must be one.
I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden, nobody was prepared, and they all had to take a cab. I've been to Victoria Street one way and nearly to Nicole Highway the other, and they were all engaged.
Did you try Marina Square?
There wasn't one at Marina Square.
Freddie, you really are very helpless. Go again and don't come back until you've got a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stay here all night with next to nothing on?
Oh, very well. I'll go. I'll go.
No, but Freddie, look where you're going, dear.
Sorry.
There's manners for you. 2 branches of violets trod in the mud.
How did you know my son's name was Freddie, pray?
Oh, he's your son, is he? Well, you done your duties, bombs. A mother should. He'd now better done to spoil a poor girl's class than run bad times for him. Will you pay me for him?
Do nothing of sort, Mother. The idea.
Please allow me, Clara. Have you any pennies?
No, I have nothing smaller than a sixpence.
I can give a change for a Hanacan lady.
Give it to me. Now, this is for your flowers.
Oh, thank you, lady.
Tell me how you knew my son's name was Freddie.
I don't.
I just heard you call him by name. Don't try to deceive me.
Who's tried to deceive you? I called him Freddie or Charlie, same as you might if you were talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
Sixpence. Throw it away. Really, Mama.
Phew.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. Started worse than ever 2 minutes ago.
If it's worse, the side's nearly over. So cheer up, Captain. Buy flour or the Purgo.
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
I can give you change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing less.
Gonna do buy flour of me, Captain. I can change you off a crown. Take this for tuppence.
Now don't be troublesome. There's a good girl. I really haven't any change. Stop. Here's 3 halfpence if that'll do you any good.
Thank you, Captain.
Here, you be careful now. Give him a flower for it. There's a brook behind there taking in every blessed word you're saying.
I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I'll be right to sell flowers if I keep out the curb. Oh, sir, don't let him charge me.
There, who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
Oh, it's all right. He's a gentleman. Sorry, sir. She thought you were a copper's nark.
What's a copper's knot?
Well, it's a copper's nark. A sort of a detective.
I take my Bible as I never said a word.
Oh, do quiet up. Do I look like a detective?
Then what did you take down my words for? You just show me what you wrote down there. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain. Buy a flower for poor girl.
It's because I call him Captain. I meant no harm. Oh, sir, don't let him lay charge against me for a word like that. You...
Charge? I make no charge. Really, sir. If you're a detective, you needn't begin protecting me against young women on the street. No, anybody could see the girl meant no harm.
He ain't a detective. He's a bloomin' busybody.
How are all your people down at Selsey?
Who told you my people were from Selsey?
And how do you come to be so far east? You were born at Pleasant Grove.
Oh, what harm is there in my living Lesson Grove? It wasn't fit for a Victorian. Oh!
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Oh, good girl, I am.
You take us for dirt under your feet, don't you? Let's see this soothsayer tell us where this gentleman's from.
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
Quite right. May I ask, sir, do you do this for a living in the circuses?
I have thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
He's no gentleman. He ain't interfere with a poor girl like that.
Why on earth is Freddy? I should get pneumonia if I stay in this shaft any longer.
Earl's Court.
Would you please come here to remark yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. Your mother's from Epsom, unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in Large City Park, near Epsom.
Large Lady Park. What a devil of a name. You want a cab, do you?
Thank you kindly, sir.
He's no right to take my character. My character's the same to me as any ladies.
I don't know whether you noticed, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
Ah, so it has. And you wasting our time with all your silliness.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my hobby and my profession. I can spot a Yorkshireman or an Irishman just by their accent. I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place it within 2 streets if he's from London.
But is there any living in that?
Oh, yes, quite a fat one. You see, this is an age of upstarts. Men start in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end up in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they give themselves away every time they open their mouths. Now,
Let him leave a poor girl alone and mind his own business.
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing immediately.
I've a right to be here if I like, same as you do.
Any woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere. Remember that you're a human being with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech. That your native language is the native language of Shakespeare and Milton and the King James Bible. And don't sit here crooning like a bilious pigeon. Heavens, what a sound.
Come on.
You see this creature of her curbstone English, the English that'll keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass her off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her placed as a lady's maid or shop assistant, which requires better English. Now, that is the sort of work I do for commercial millionaires, and on the profits of it, I do genuine scientific work in the phonetics.
I myself am a student of Indian dialect.
Are you now? Do you happen to know Colonel Pickering, author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of the Higgins Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Where are you staying?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm staying at the Carlton. Let's have a talk over some supper.
Right you are.
By a flag, kind gentleman, I'm short for my lodging.
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
Liar. You said you could change half a crown.
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Take the whole blooming basket for 6 pence.
Got a taxi at last. Hello? Where are the 2 ladies that were here?
They got a cab nearly 10 minutes ago.
And left me with a cab on my hands.
Never you mind, young gentleman. I'm going home in a taxi myself. Angel Court, Drury Lane, round the corner, Michael Yard's old shop. Let's see how fast you can make her hop it.
Taxi!
Well, that's the end of the show.
It's really quite amazing. I haven't taken half of it in. I think I'm quite done with sounds today.
Tired of listening to vowel sounds?
Yes, I fancied myself because I could pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 420 beat me. And I can't tell the difference between any of them.
Oh, that comes of practice. You hear no difference at first, but you keep listening and you'll soon find that they're all as different from A to B.
A young woman wishes to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
She's quite a common girl, very common indeed. I should have sent her away, only I thought you'd want to interview her for more vowel pronunciations.
Does she have an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir. Really.
Send her up then.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
This is a bit of luck. I'll show you how I do my business.
This is the young woman, sir.
Why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's of no use to me. I have all the records I want of the Lizen Grove lingo, and I'm not going to waste another moment on it. Be off with you.
Don't you be so saucy. I've come here to have lessons, I am, and pay for them too. Make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down. Don't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
What is it you want, my girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop, instead of selling at the corner of Tottenham Court Road. But they won't take me unless I can talk, my genteel. He said he could teach me, and here I am, ready to pay him, not asking for any favor, and he treats me as if I was dead.
But what makes you think you can afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do, and I'm ready to pay for them.
Right, well, sit down and let's discuss. First of all, what's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
Right, and how do you expect to pay me for these lessons?
Oh, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets 8 French lessons for 18 pence an hour from a real French gentleman. Now, I know you wouldn't have the face to ask me the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French. So I won't give you more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you look at the shilling not as the amount, but as a percentage of this girl's income, it works out to be fully equivalent to be about 60 to 70 guineas from a millionaire.
How so?
Figure it out. A millionaire earns about £150 a day. This girl earns about half a crown. She offers me 2/5 of a day's income to pay me for these lessons. 2/5 of a millionaire's income is about £60. It's handsome. By George, it's enormous. It's the biggest offer I've ever had.
Higgins, I'm interested in this arrangement. There's an ambassador's garden party coming up in 6 months, and I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you can teach her to speak properly and pass her off as a duchess for that occasion. I'll pay all the expenses of the experiment. You can't do it, and I'll pay for the lessons too.
Oh, you're real good. Thank you, Captain.
She's almost irresistible. So deliciously low class. So impossibly crude.
I ain't rude. I say my prayers every night, I do.
You certainly aren't going to turn her head with flattery, Higgins.
Oh, don't say that, sir. There's certainly more ways than one of turning a girl's head, and nobody can do it better than Mr. Higgins, though he may not always mean it. I do hope, sir, that you won't encourage him to do anything foolish.
What is life but a series of inspired follies? Never miss a chance, it doesn't come every day. I shall make a duchess of this draggle-tailed gutter snipe. Yes. In 6 months, I'll be able to take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We shall start today, now, this very moment. Mrs. Pierce, is there a good fire in the kitchen?
Yes, but
Take all her clothes off and burn them. Ring up Whiteley's or someone else for new ones. Wrap her up in brown paper till they arrive.
Yeah, no, gentlemen. You're not to talk of such things. I'm a good girl, I am, and I know what the like of you are, I do.
We shall have none of your prudery here, young woman. You are to learn to behave like a duchess. Mrs. Pierce, take her away. If she gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
Higgins, be reasonable.
Mr. Higgins, you must be reasonable. You really must. You can't just walk over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody? My dear Mrs. Pierce, my dear Colonel Pickering, I never had the slightest intention of walking over anybody. All I propose is that we take care of the poor girl. We must prepare her for a new station in life. If I did not express my intentions clearly, it is simply because I did not want to hurt her delicacy or yours.
You don't know anything about this girl. What about her parents? She may even be married.
Gone.
There. As the girl so properly says, gone. Married. Indeed.
Who'd marry me?
Stop this, Mr. Higgins. I won't allow for this nonsense. Go home to your parents, girl, and stay away from this far-fetched gamble.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was big enough to earn my own living and turned me out.
Then what's all the fuss about? The girl doesn't belong to anyone. She's of no use to anyone but me. You can adopt her, Mrs. Pierce. I'm sure a daughter would be of great amusement to you. Now, let's have no more fuss. Take her downstairs
But
and...
what will become of her? Is she to be given any wages? You must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins.
Well, she'll have her food, clothes, and lodging. Put it down in the housekeeping book.
Higgins, do you realize the girl has some feelings?
Feelings? Not any we need worry about, do you, Eliza?
I have my feelings the same as anybody else.
Do you see the difficulty?
Will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here on. Is she to be given any wages? And what will become of her after you've finished with your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What is to become of her if we leave her in the gutter, Mrs. Pierce? Answer me that.
That's her own business and not yours, Mr. Higgins.
And when we're done with her, we'll put her back into the gutters. So it's her own business again, and that's all right.
You've got no feeling out in you. You don't care about nothing but yourself. Yeah, I've had enough of this. I'm leaving. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Have some chocolates, Liza.
I never had a chocolate before.
You should have boxes of them, barrels of them. Every day, you shall live on them.
Mr. Higgins, it isn't right. You're tempting the girl. She should think of the future.
At her age? Nonsense. Time enough to think of the future when you haven't a future at all? No, Liza. Think of other people's future, but never your own. Think of taxis and chocolates and gold and diamonds.
No, I don't want no gold and no diamonds. I'm a good girl, I am.
Higgins, I really must interfere. If this girl is to commit herself to your hands for the next 6 months, she must thoroughly understand what she's doing.
How can she? She's incapable of understanding anything. Besides, do we ever understand what we are doing? And if we did, would we ever do it?
Very clever, Higgins, but no sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
There. That's all you get out of Liza. No use explaining to her. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her her orders. That is what she wants. Liza, For the next 6 months, you are to stay here learning how to speak like a lady in a flower shop. At the end of the 6 months, you'll be taken to Buckingham Palace in a carriage dressed beautifully. If the king finds out that you are not a duchess, you will be taken to the Tower of London, where your head will be chopped off. But if you are not found out, you will be given a present of 7 and 6 to start your own life as a lady in a flower shop. There. Can I put it any more plainly and fairly?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl properly, in private. I don't know that I can consent or take charge of this arrangement at all. I know you don't mean her any harm, but when you get what you call interested in people's accents, you don't think or care about what may happen to them or you. Come with me, Liza.
That's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Spears. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
You're a great bully, you are. I won't stay here if I don't like. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace, I didn't. I was never in trouble with the police, not me. I'm a good girl, I am.
Don't talk back to the gentlemen. You don't understand them. Come with me.
Well, what I say is right. I won't go near the king, not if I'm going to have my head cut off. If I'd known what I was letting myself in for, I would have never come here. I'm a good girl, I am, and I have my feelings the same as anyone else.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
Henry, I'm here.
Hello, Mother.
What is it that you've brought me down to the lab this afternoon?
I have a job for you, a phonetics job.
No use, sir. I'm sorry, but I can't get around your vowels.
Well, it isn't exactly a phonetics job.
You just said it was.
Not your part, at least. You see, I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean that some girl has picked you up?
No, I don't mean a relationship.
Oh, what a pity.
Why?
Well, you never fall in love with a girl under the age of 45. When will you realize that there are some rather nice and-looking women about?
Oh, I don't bother with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is that something as like you as possible.
Do you know what you'd do if you really loved me, Henry?
What? Get married, I suppose.
No, stop fidgeting and take your hands in your pockets. That's a good boy. Now, tell me about the girl.
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl I picked off the curbstone. Through 3 months of practice, I've taught her to speak English properly. At the end of the 3 months, I hope to pass her off as a duchess at the upcoming ambassador's garden party in another 3 months. I hope to test her out today with you. She's been given strict instructions as to her behavior, and she's to keep to 2 topics: the weather and everybody's health.
What is this madness? How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, what else is she to talk about? Oh, don't worry, she'll be all right. Pickering is in it with me. You know, she is the most extraordinary cook in Seville. She's been easier to teach than most of my middle-class pupils because she's had to learn an entirely new language. She speaks English almost as you speak French.
That's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is and it isn't.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, you see, I've got a pronunciation all right. You not only have to take into account how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that's where...
Mrs. and Miss Eynsford Hill.
Taxidermy.
Who are these people?
These are my friends from church. I've actually been planning this meeting with an eligible bachelorette for you for quite some time. I hope my extra invitation didn't spoil your plans.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Your celebrated son. I've so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
I have seen you somewhere before. I haven't the faintest idea where, but I've heard your voice. It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
I don't.
Not at all.
I'm sorry, have I been rude?
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
I'm well. Do you know Mrs. Eynsford Hill? Miss Eynsford Hill?
Has Henry told you about a project?
We were interrupted.
Oh, Henry, really?
Are we in the way?
Oh, no. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We wanted you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, we do want 2 or 3 people, and I suppose you'll do as well as anybody.
Mr. Eynsford Hill.
Please, no more visitors.
How do you do?
Very good of you to come. Colonel Pickering.
How do you do?
And I don't believe you met my son, Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
I'll take my oath. I've seen you somewhere before.
I don't think so.
It doesn't matter anyhow. Sit down.
Miss Doolittle.
Here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
I'm very well. Glad indeed to make your acquaintance.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do? How do you do?
It would certainly be a pleasure to be introduced.
My son, Freddie.
How do you do?
By George, it all comes back to me. Act 1 of the rain scene. What a coincidence.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these lands is likely to move in an easterly direction. There is no indication of any great change in the barometrical situation. What is wrong with that, young man?
How awfully funny.
I sure hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through our family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza. So they said. But it's my belief they done the old woman in. Done her in? Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria the year before right enough. Somebody in my family sure has done her in.
Dear me.
What call should a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza. What become of her new straw hat as should come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them has pinched it done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
Oh, that's the new small talk. To do someone in means to kill them.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed.
Why not? Them she lived with would have killed her for a hatpin, let alone a hat. Here, what are you sniggering at?
Nothing. It's just the new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, then what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Oh, not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say. Well, I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye.
We must go.
Yes, we still have 3 homes to go to, so goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Mr. Pickering. Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, most awfully.
Well, you know where my son lives.
Yes, thanks most awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye. Well, is Liza presentable?
You silly boy. Of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers. But if you suppose that that girl doesn't give herself away in every sentence she utters, you must be completely cracked about her.
But is there anything we can do to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation?
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Oh well, I suppose I'm not a saint.
Henry, where does the girl live?
Well, here of course. Where else would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I understand what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Oh, come off it. I've had to work at the girl every day for months to get her as a present pitch.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce? Oh, she's jolly glad to have another woman in the house. They're now best of friends. However, she's always complaining I don't think enough about Liza's future. As if I ever stopped thinking about her and her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out thinking about her and watching her tongue and her teeth and her lips, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You remind me of a baby playing with a doll.
Playing? The hardest job I've ever tackled, Mother, make no mistake about that. But you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to take a human being and change them into quite a different human being by giving them a complete new language. It's filling the deepest divide between soul and class from class.
Yes, it's enormously interesting, Mrs. Higgins. I assure you, we take Liza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there's some new change. And we keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, it is the most absorbing job I've ever tackled. It regularly fills up most of our lives, doesn't she, Bick?
We're always talking about Liza.
Teaching Liza.
Dressing Liza.
What?
I assure
You know,
Mrs.
she
Higgins,
is the
that
most
girl's a
extraordinary
genius. We've
persevere.
taken her to music
I've
halls
tried
and
with
classical
every
concerts,
single
and she
sound a
comes
human being
right
can make.
back
Hot
home
knock
to
clicks,
play 'em off
African
at the
dialects,
piano.
continental
She hasn't
dialects,
touched
things
the
took me
piano.
years to pick up.
Stop!
I beg your pardon.
Henry, Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that there's a problem?
The problem to make her speak properly like a lady?
I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid milk creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
She'll be all right with all the advantages I've given her.
The advantage of the poor woman who was here just now. The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income? Is that what you mean?
Don't worry about her, Mrs. Higgins. She's all right.
Yes, we'll find her some light employment.
She'll be all right. Don't you worry about her.
Yes, the thing's done now, Mother. There's no use worrying about it. Goodbye.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right.
Let's take it to the Shakespeare exhibition at Earl's Court.
Yes, her remarks would be delicious.
And she'll mimic all the characters for us when we get home.
What fun. I say, Mrs. Pierce will row we leave all these things lying about in the room.
Oh, chuck him over the banister into the hall. Mrs. Pierce will find him in the morning and put him away all right. I've heard enough rows tonight not to care anymore. Have you seen my slippers?
Circulars. And this quite extravagant letter.
From a Freddie Hill. Now, where have I heard of that name? Oh, Lord. What an evening. What a crew. What a silly tomfoolery. Ah, they're there, are they?
Today was a complete success. You've won your bet, Higgins. Liza did the trick, and something to spare, eh?
Yes, thank God it's all over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was. Liza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. It was interesting at first while we were in the phonetics, but after that, I got deadly sick of it. If I hadn't backed myself up to do it, I would have thrown the whole thing up 2 months ago. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, come, it was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Well, yes, for the first 3 minutes, but after I saw we were going to win, hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, sitting about with nothing to do. And the dinner was the worst. Sitting there, gorging yourself for an hour, with nobody but a fool of a fashionable woman to talk to. I tell you, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
You've never been properly broken into the social routine. I quite enjoy dipping into myself. It makes me feel young again. Anyhow, tonight was a complete success, a great success. I was afraid once or twice because Liza was doing it so well. You know, the real people, they can't do it at all. They're such fools to think that style comes by nature to the people in their position. Thus, they never learn. There's always something professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, that's what drives me mad. The silly people don't know their own silly business. However, it is all done now, and I may go to bed without dreading tomorrow.
I feel quite tired too. I shall turn in. It's been a great success, a triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Turn out the lights, Liza, and tell Mrs. Pierce not to make coffee for me in the morning. I'll take tea. Guard it with your life. Where are my slippers?
There are your slippers, and may you never have a day's good luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Get up. Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong with you. I've won your bet for you. That's all that matters for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet? You? Presumptuous insect. I won my bet. Now what did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out? In the gutter. You thank God it's all over, so that now you can throw me back again there, do you?
How dare you show your temper to me? Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
You don't care. I know you don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I don't matter to you. Not as much as them slippers.
Why have you begun going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Has anyone been mistreating you? Mrs. Pierce? Colonel Pickering? Any of the servants?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have been mistreating you.
No.
I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps you're just tired after the strain of the day. Will you have some tea?
No, thank you.
This has been coming on you for quite some time, and I suppose it's only natural for you to have been nervous about the garden party. However, it's all over now, and there's nothing more for you to worry about.
No, nothing more for you to worry about. God, I wish I was dead.
Why? In heaven's name, why? Liza, listen to me. All this irritation is purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
It's only imagination. Low spirits and nothing else. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing's wrong. You go to bed now like a good girl. Say your prayers, have a little cry. That'll make you feel better.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you think God it's all over? Now you are free and may do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What's to become of me?
Well, that's what's been worrying you. I wouldn't bother about that if I were you. I should imagine you wouldn't have much difficulty in settling yourself someplace or other. Although I hadn't quite realized you were going away, Liza. You might marry, you know. Most men are the marrying sort. Not all men are confirmed bachelors like me and the Colonel. And you're quite a pleasure to look at times. Not now, of course, because you're crying and looking as ugly as the very devil, but when you're yourself and quite all right, you're what I would call attractive. That is to the men in the marrying line, you understand. You go to bed now and have a good rest, and in the morning, have a look in the mirror, and you won't feel so cheap. I dare say my mother could find some chap or other who would do quite well.
We were above that at the Carnac Tottenham Coat Road.
Excuse me?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady out of me. I'm not fit to sell anything.
Tosh, Liza. Don't you insult human relations by bringing all this buying and selling into it. You needn't marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I to do?
Well, what about your old idea of a flower shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's lots of money. Why, 6 months ago, you thought it super to have your own flower shop. Come, you'll be all right. Now, I must be off to bed. I came down here for something. What was it?
Your slippers.
Ah, yes, my slippers. You shied them at me.
Before you go, sir, do my clothes belong to me or Colonel Pickering?
What would Pickering use them for?
You might want to use them on the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that the way you think of us?
I don't want to hear anything about that. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt.
Why are you worrying about this now in the middle of the night?
I just want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? You shouldn't have said that, Liza. It shows a want of feeling.
I'm sorry, but I'm only a common ignorant girl, and in my station I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. So please, will you tell me what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole house of clothes if you like. Of course, the jewels were rented and have to be returned. That satisfy you?
Stop, please. Will you take these for me? I don't want to run the risk of them being lost.
Hand them over. If these belong to me and not the jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
This ring doesn't belong to the jeweler. It's the one you brought me in Brighton. I don't want it now.
Don't you hit me!
Hit you? Infamous creature. How dare you accuse me of such an accusation? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
I'm glad. I've got a bit of my own back anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper. I wish to say no more tonight. I am going to bed.
You'd better leave a note to Mrs. Pierce about the coffee. She won't be told by me.
I cannot believe I lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe.
Ha ha ha.
Mr. Higgins, your mother is here.
What's going on?
Mr. Henry's in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me Mr. Henry wasn't in a state, I'd be more surprised.
Look here, Mother, here's a confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Liza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She was left last night, as usual, to turn out the light, but instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and she went right off. She apparently came in a cab before 7 this morning to collect the rest of her things, and that fool, Mrs. Pierce, didn't tell me a word of it. What am I to do?
Do without her, I'm afraid, Henry. That girl has perfect right to leave if she chooses.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Henry, what did the police say on the phone?
The inspector gave us some difficulties. I'm rather afraid he suspected us of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right do you have to go to the police and give the girl's name as if she's a thief or a lost umbrella or something, really?
Well, we want to find her.
We couldn't let her go. What were we to do?
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really must know where Eliza is, she's with me today and is waiting just outside.
Really? Then I shall jolly soon fetch her.
Be quiet, Henry, and sit down.
But...
Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Very well. I would have preferred you'd told me this half an hour ago.
Liza came to me this morning. She passed the night partly walking about in a rage, partly throwing herself into the river and being too afraid to do so, and partly in the Carlton Hotel. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
What?
My dear Mrs. Higgins, that girl's been telling you stories. We didn't treat her brutally. We barely said a word to her. And we left on particularly good terms. Henry, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in the most outrageous way. I never gave her the slightest provocation.
But why?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. She had become attached to you both. She worked really hard for you, Henry. I don't think you quite realize what nature of brain work that means to a girl like that. Well, it seems like when the great day of trial came, and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two just sat there and said the thing to her, but talked about how glad you were that was all over, and how bored you were with the whole thing. And then you were surprised she threw her slippers at you. I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
All we said is that we were tired and wanted to go to bed. Didn't we, Pick?
That was all.
Quite sure?
Really, that was all.
You didn't thank her, or pet her, or admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been?
We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate. Is she very angry?
Well, she was, but now she's quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and to let bygones be bygones.
Is she, by George?
Henry, if you promise to behave, I'll ask Liza to come in. If not, I'll go home, for you have taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, very well. Let us put on our best Sunday manners for this creature we picked out of the mud.
Remember your promise, Henry. Mrs. Pierce, ask Miss Doolittle to come in, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
He is doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
Where the devil is this girl? Are we to wait here all day?
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well? But of course you are. You're never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare play this game with me. I taught it to you, and it does not take me in. Stop fooling around town and come home, and don't be a fool.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
You leave her alone, Mother. Let her speak for herself. We shall very soon see whether she has a word I haven't put in her mouth or an idea I haven't put into her head. I tell you, I made this thing out of the squashed cabbage leaves of Covent Garden, and now she pretends to play the fine lady with me.
Yes, dear, but you'll sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether, now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
Oh, but I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No.
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
That's very kind of you to say, Miss Doolittle.
It's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you're generous to everybody with money. But it's from you that I learned really nice manners. You see, it was so very difficult for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, unable to control myself and using bad language on the slightest provocation. And I should have never have known that ladies and gentlemen don't behave that way. If you hadn't been there.
You mustn't mind him. It's only his way.
It was only my way when I was a flower girl. But you see, I did it, and that's what makes a difference after all.
No doubt, but still, he taught you how to speak. I couldn't have done that.
Of course, that is his profession.
Seriously, this girl.
It was just like learning to dance in the stylish way. There was nothing more than that in it. But do you know what began my real education?
What?
You're calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were 100 little things that you probably never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things like standing up, holding doors, taking off hats.
That's nothing.
Yes, things that show that you thought and felt about me as something more than just a scullery maid. Although I do know you would have been the same to a scullery maid if she had been let into the room. You never took off your boots when I was there.
You mustn't mind him. He takes off his boots all over the place.
I know. I'm not blaming Higgins. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, really and truly, apart from the things that anyone can pick up, the manner of dressing, the way of speaking and such, the real difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he treats me like a flower girl. But I know I can be a lady to you because you treat me like a lady, and always will.
That's very kind of you to say, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Of course, Liza. Thank you.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
Absolute hogwash.
You tell me, that when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up its language and forgets its own. Well, I'm a child in your country. I've forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
But you'll forgive Higgins? You'll return to Wimpole Street?
Forgive? Will she, by George? Let her go and see how she gets on without us. She will relapse into the gutter without 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
He's incorrigible, Liza. You won't relapse, won't you?
No, not now. I've learned my lesson. I couldn't utter one of the old sounds even if I tried.
Do you think you can forgive him and come back to us?
Well, Liza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? And will you come back? Or do you want more?
You want me back only to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed, then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you as I always have treated you. I cannot change my nature, and I do not intend to change my manners. My manners are the same as Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she were a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she was a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
Just so. The real secret, Liza, is not to have good manners or bad manners or any other sort of manners at all, but to treat all human beings with the same sort of manner. In short, to behave as if you were in heaven, where there are no third-class carriages and one soul is as good as another.
Amen. You're a born preacher.
The question is not whether I have treated you, Miss Poorly, but whether you've seen me treat anyone else any better.
I don't care how you treat me, but I won't be passed over.
And get out of my way, for I will not stop for you. You talk about me as if I was a motor bus.
So you are a motor bus, all bounce and go, and no consideration for anyone. But I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
I don't suppose you've asked yourself whether I could do without you.
Don't you try to get around me. You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. I have my own soul. But I shall miss you, Liza. I have learnt something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I've grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I rather like them.
Well, you have both of them on your gramophone and book of pictures. Whenever you feel lonely without me, just turn the machine on. It's got no feelings to hurt.
But I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings and take away the voice and the face. They aren't you.
Oh, you are a devil. You can twist the heart of a girl the same as some might twist her arms to hurt her. Mrs. Pierce warned me. Time and time again she has wanted to leave you. But you always got round to her at the very last minute. Yet you don't care a bit about her. And you don't care a bit about me.
You don't understand, Liza. I go my way and go about my way without caring twopence what happens to either of us. I am not intimidated. You can either come home now or leave for good.
What am I to come back for?
Well, for the fun of it, of course. That's why I took you on.
And you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
And you may leave if I don't do everything you want me to.
Oh, if I could only go back to my flower basket. I should be independent of both of you and all the world. Why did you take my independence from me? Why did I give it up? I'm a slave now for all my fine clothes.
Not a bit. I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you. Or would you rather marry Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you ask me. And you're nearer my age than what he is.
Than he is, not than what he is.
Oh, I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now.
I don't suppose he would marry you, though. He's as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want, and don't you think it. Freddie Hill writes to me twice or thrice a day. Letters galore for months.
Is that so?
He has a right to if he likes, and he does love me.
You have no right to encourage him.
Every girl has a right to be loved.
Not by fools like him.
Freddie's not a fool. And if he's poor and weak and wants me, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters who bully me. We are to be married this afternoon.
Yes, but can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I can make something of him. But I never thought of us making anything of each other. And you never think about anything else. I just want to be natural.
So in short, you want me to be as infatuated as Freddie?
No, that's not the sort of feeling I want from you.
Then what in thunder are we quarreling about?
I just want a little kindness. I know I'm a common ignorant girl and you're a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the taxis and the dresses, but because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you.
Well, of course. That's just how I feel. And how Pickering feels.
Oh, I can't talk to you. you turn everything against me. You know that I have no real friends in the world except for you and the Colonel. You know very well that I couldn't bear to live with a low common man after you two, and it's cruel and wicked of you by pretending I could. You think I must go back to Wimpole Street because I have nowhere else to go. But don't you be too sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled down and talked down upon. I'll marry Freddie, I will.
Rubbish. You shall marry an ambassador, or the Governor General of India, or the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, or somebody who wants a deputy queen. Anybody but Freddie.
You think I like you to say that. But I haven't forgotten what you said 5 minutes ago, and I won't be coaxed around like a baby or a puppy. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? That's middle-class blasphemy. We are all dependent on each other, every soul of us on earth.
I'll see how dependent I am on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
And what do you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me, phonetics. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer year than you. And what's more, I can be civil and kind to people. And that's more than you can do. That's done you, Henry Higgins, it has. I'll advertise in the papers that your duchess is just a flower girl you taught, and that she'll teach anybody to be a duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas.
Curse you. But it's better than sniveling. Better than fetching slippers, isn't it? By George, Liza, I said I'd make a woman of you, and I have. I like you like this.
Yes, you turn round and make up to me, now that I'm not afraid of you, and can do without you.
5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone around my neck. Now, you're a tower of strength, a consort battleship.
The carriage is waiting, Liza. Are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Oh, most certainly not. The man can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
I see. Well, then, Professor, I won't see you again. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Liza.
You know, you ought to clean up your act for the night so you can witness Liza's wedding. And you must see this preacher. The way he pronounces sanctimoniously will most certainly tickle you.
Mr. Higgins, Freddie Hill is here.
Mr. Higgins, Colonel Pickering, I wanted to thank you for introducing me to Liza.
You're quite welcome.
I have a favor to ask. I need 2 gentlemen for groomsmen. Would you two care to do me the honors?
Certainly. Henry, will you be coming?
Oh, dash it all. Mrs. Pierce, prepare my tuxedo and have it delivered to the church.